everybody. This is Metal Walt, and today I'm joined by Zach and Tom, members of Howling Giant, a fuzz-psych metal band out of Nashville who recently completed their tour with the Obsessed, and they're still out promoting their new album, Glass Future. So, guys, welcome to Metal Mayhem ROC.
Thanks for having us.
So when we chatted, we were at I think it was the last show of the tour in Brooklyn on a Friday night, and that was a good one, man. I was such a weird night because I had to rush over from New Jersey. It was an early show, took all these trains to get there, and then it was like 10 o'clock comes, and like it turned into a drag queen show. I was like,
Yeah.
what the hell is going on here?
Dude,
Yeah,
that was
the
madness. I feel like that was kind of the New York energy. I was like,
oh yeah,
man, this is
dude.
just like the vibe of this town. Quick turnover, like show's done, and they're like, man, get out. New show going on right
Yeah.
now. Move it.
I just was trying to like talk to you guys and Wino, and I'm watching all these dudes with Daisy Dukes coming in and mustaches, and I'm like, all right, this is 2024, the world we live in, right?
Well, we got lucky because I was gonna wear that, so I'm glad I
Yeah.
didn't accidentally match them.
Okay. Hey, listen, if they took a couple of those stickers and put them up on stage, you get some advertising out of it. What the hell, right?
Big time.
There you go.
But guys, all kidding aside, I'm going to be honest. I am new to Howling Giant, and I'll tell you how I got introduced to you guys. So I had Wino on for an interview to promote the Obsessed new album Gilded Sorrow back. I guess it was January or February, and he had just announced the tour dates. And you know how Wino is, and he just said, "Yeah, we got this tour coming up, and Walt, I'll see you in Brooklyn, and we're gonna be with Howling Giant. Those fucking guys are badass. They're fucking badass." That's the exact words he used.
Oh
And I
man.
said to myself, I said, if Wino is putting a rubber stamp on it, endorse them, they got to be good. So you guys have been friends with Wino? Are you in the Obsessed?
Man, we kind of crossed paths with them a few times at various shows in the
Yeah.
past. And I mean, he was just like the nicest dude when we first met him. Like just so down to earth and I mean, such a legend and so talented. But
Yeah,
you
we
know,
first met him a couple of years back. We played when the Obsessed was out with I Hate God. So they came through this brewery in Nashville. We opened the show. That's where we first met him. Man, so kind. And so we've crossed paths over the years, just out on the road, especially in Europe, because they were over at the same time as us.
Hmm.
They let us borrow a power conditioner because ours kept going out. So yeah, when this one came up, we were super excited to, hang with them, see him every night, and get to know him a little bit more.
Yeah, that's cool. So give us a little background because I definitely want to focus a bit on your sound, which I think is unique, but you guys have been around for what, I guess 9, 10 years, and it looks like your roots are in Nashville. So give us a little history, who's in the band, where you guys are from, where your roots are, and that kind of thing.
yeah. Well, me and Zach started jamming back in college in Boston, probably around like 2011 is when we actually started just jamming together. Is that right, Zach?
Yeah, around there.
We were both in different bands at the time, and we started a side project kind of as a joke called Skulldozer, and it was badass, man. It was meant to just be like this fun kind of like outlet of very riff focused songs about like I don't know, slaying demons and orcs and random D&D kind of stuff. But we found out it was just like way more fun than our other projects at the time, and people who were coming out were like stoked on it. So we kind of just kept progressing down that path. And when we graduated, we were like, hey, man, you want to just like get out of Boston? And Nashville seemed like a good spot to relocate to. It was more affordable, great position from like a touring perspective. It's easy to get to the East Coast, Midwest, or to the South. So me and Zach relocated and then decided to rebrand and basically just rebuild from there back in like 2013,
Yeah.
2014 maybe.
hmm
Um,
Yeah, we moved down with our bass player at the time, Roger Marks, and we kind of started getting out a little bit more around like 2015-ish, like under the band name. And then as touring started to pick up, um, Roger decided to part ways with the band. Kind of touring wasn't his thing, so we met our current bass player, Sebastian Seabass,
Yep.
working at a brewery downtown. Tom met him, and we got in the practice room once, and we were like, "Yeah, this is the dude." So, and then as of late, at least with the Obsessed tour, we just did our first tour with an additional guitarist, our good buddy James Sanderson. So we've been rocking the three-piece for a while. So it's nice to bring some of those extra textures on stage with James.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
you
just
saw
going
us, and
back
that
to
was the.
your yeah, go ahead. Go
I
ahead.
was gonna say when you saw us, man, it's pretty interesting. That was like one of the first times as a four piece. So it's cool that you have a look in kind of, the first lineup change in since 2013.
Yeah.
Um,
So now was he not on the whole tour? Because that was towards the end of that was the last date of
he
the
was
tour.
he was on that tour, but that was his first
Okay.
foray with us. So really,
Yeah.
that
The
last
first
month
tour.
was like the
Yeah.
first step in, really. So it went great, man. Especially by the end of the tour, it was like we were feeling locked in, and it's really great being a four piece. You have a lot more room to kind of stretch out, doing solos and rhythmically and all that stuff. So
So is it, I think if my memory serves me right, the only guy that didn't like have like a vocal, like a primary vocal section was Seabass, correct? He's the only non-singer in the group.
well, James wasn't singing either. It's pretty much just me and Zach right now.
Okay.
Seabass does sing on the record, and he has been singing live with us, kind of on and off. We're kind of feeling out how to introduce an additional member, but
Yeah.
usually it's me and Zach. I would do kind of the primary vocals, and Zach is uh, the main harmony kind of dude. And we may add in more voices as we go, but for right now, I think me and Zach have it pretty dialed in.
Yeah, James
Okay.
had a mic at the Brooklyn show because I mean this tour was serving as like sometimes we gave it to Seabass, sometimes to James to just kind of try out like,
Mhm.
hey, you're in the van, you're talking about the set the night before, and you're like, I think we could add an additional vocal on these parts. So we were just kind of experimenting, see what worked, but we're gonna dial that in a little bit more for some tours later this year.
It is cool to like try that on the road. We're
Right.
like trying new things in real time as you're touring because, man, you just don't know if something works in the practice room until it's like on stage.
Yeah.
So it's kind of trial by fire, but it's been cool throwing them in, and just trying those vocals.
Well, yeah, and especially, I mean, you were out. I mean, you did the Glass Future album all the way end to end. So this is not like new material you're writing and crafting on the road. These are existed recorded songs. So that, now you got to decide where to take that extra vocal piece, the harmonies or the melodies, or who's going to do what, and you're kind of tweaking them along the way in each of the shows. Which, yeah, that's takes some work, right?
Yeah.
So you guys, I don't want to get past this, but you guys said you went to school in Boston. Did you guys go to music school? Were you at like Juilliard or something up there?
We went to Berklee. Yeah,
Okay.
so we were studying, music, very different avenues though. I guess I was kind of studying like rock guitar stuff, but it was very like jazz and pop centric. And then, um, I guess my focus was more in rock, and I think yours probably was as well, Zach.
Totally. Yeah. I mean, I kind of just did a bunch of sessions and stuff up there. I met my wife up there, Kim, who records and mixes our records. So, we kind of like built our network there, and a lot of that school ended up like everyone moved to LA or New York or Nashville, and Nashville was the choice for us. We had a bunch of buddies going down, so that was kind of the choice, like Tom was saying earlier.
Mhm.
I studied some music business as well, which is been quite helpful out there on the road
Yeah.
navigating the DIY band approach. How do you book your own show? How do you do this?
It's amazing how much you can learn at music school, but like they don't teach you how to actually be a band and like survive and how to like tour on the road,
Right.
um, how to
How to
write.
do your taxes.
It's like all these important life skills, and you're like, man, did I really need to learn these like complicated jazz voicings of and ways to play like crazy jazz scales? It's like, no, not really. You need to learn how to do your taxes, man.
Yeah. You got
I,
to
I
tell me
was
what I can write off as a musician.
listen, I get it.
Seriously, man.
I was just having a conversation with my 19-year-old son at lunch because he's on college break and he's taking business classes and he's also working the trades. He's working plumbing.
Hmm.
But he says, "Oh, Dad, I just signed up for accounting." I said, "Listen, accounting sucks. It's dry, but you need to understand the balance sheet, the ledger sheets, the
Hmm.
profit and loss. And listen, you need it if you're going to run your own business."
I mean, that's probably the main thing that kills a lot of these bands that are like really great bands. We have some friends who are just in awesome bands in town, and you see them kind of come and go because making it float, making it actually like work is really no small feat, man. It's a difficult thing being a band and surviving financially.
Well, and it's also too like you guys as let's say up and comers. you're younger and you have a different perspective on things, right? And but you look at like some of the old veteran bands, not picking on Wino per se, but these guys came from another generation. They had agents and booking people and touring managers, and I'm sure a lot of those guys didn't have to worry about that stuff, and either they made it or they didn't. And it depends on, did these guys, were they partiers? Were they just casual beer drinkers? Or did they get all fucked up and, get taken advantage of? So, good for you guys to learn the business side of things, not just the musical side. Because like you say, it's going to be tough to sustain a career, right?
Yeah.
And I would almost jump in and say, like, to give some credit to like Wino and the crew is like, he's been through a different era, but very much like adapted to the modern day. I think it would be easy for someone who was used to more like financial backing from a label to maybe like halt it in the modern day. But I think they've learned to like adapt and push through, and they were just awesome, man. They were road dogs through and through. So
Wino for sure is a great example of somebody who has been like signed to a major label back in the day, back and forth, like pushed back to DIY. A lot of that came from the Baltimore DC punk scene in the 80s. Like, but Wino was friends with all these people and learned to adapt to do the DIY stuff and then work with labels and then back to this and that. He was giving us all sorts of business advice on the side too, which was quite helpful to hear
dude,
from a road dog.
and at the end of the day, it's like sheer force of will to just like keep doing it. It's like just keep playing the shows and you figure it out as you go and you adapt to the environment, whatever it may be.
Are you guys, do you have careers aside from this band? Do you have like an actual like, career job too, or is this kind of it?
We kind of, when we moved down and well, at least when we started trying to tour more, we picked jobs so that we could do the band. So jobs that are
Okay.
super flexible. Like here in Nashville, service industry, everyone knows that everyone that's a bartender, server, anything is a musician. So all of the, restaurant and bar owners around here know the deal when they're like, okay, well, this person's going on tour here, this person's going on tour here. As long as I've got someone to man the bar, we're good. So Tom and I worked at a brewery for a while. I
Nice.
started working for some of the smaller labels here and there, just picking up work on the road, pretty much just doing whatever they asked me to do. So
hmm And I'm still in like I do barbecue catering, man. It's very Nashville,
Hey,
but that is
cool.
what it is. It's connecting the dots financially, but as far as like the career and the main like focus of energy, I mean, it is the band, so it's a tough
Yeah.
split. Zach has a cool thing going right now where I think working with the labels and doing like consulting for band stuff, that's a really cool path that I think can grow along with the band. Whereas, where I am is very cool, but it is a tough balance, between,
Mhm.
work life, band life, and it's tough, man.
I got you. I got you. So, hey, a little bit about Seabass. I mean, obviously, he comes from heavy metal bloodline.
Oh yeah.
Uh, his father is Peter Baltes of Accept fame, now playing with Udo. We had Udo Dirkschneider on Metal Mayhem ROC to promote his new album, Touchdown, a couple of months ago. But so talk a little bit about like the metal influence there. Have you been around? Have you met his dad? Has he checked you guys out? What's that been like?
Dude, Peter is awesome, man. He gave me a pair of his shoes, and I need to wear them more. They're these steel-toed boots with like a Union Jack on them or something like that. I'm like, those
yeah,
things are sick, man. Um, dude, he's great.
yeah,
I think he's like the great balance of happy to chime in if we want help or advice on like what he would do, but he's also happy like letting us kind of run with it and do the thing. So he's been kind of a cool just resource to have,
yeah.
off to the side.
Seabass has said this is the first band that Peter gives his stamp of approval and that Seabass has been in. So that's, we'll take that for
Dude,
sure.
we're gonna take that and run with it, baby.
Yeah. We also did we collaborated with Peter and Udo. Magnetic Eye does these Redux records. So they will do an entire classic rock or metal album covered top to bottom, and a different band kind of does each track. So we did Shoot to Thrill with Peter and Udo when they did their Back in Black Redux. So that was really cool to be able to work with Peter on a project. And
Dude,
yeah, they
Seabass and Peter did a dueling bass solo
yeah.
section in that song,
Yeah,
which is
father
like
son
next
bass
level.
shred. Yeah.
Well, you know those guys they got a tour booked in the States in September that
Hmm.
got postponed. You guys should try to get on that tour. It'd be perfect for you guys.
Man, we're trying to, but it's that balance of, you don't want to be the band that everyone's like, oh man, the nepotism, we
Here
just
come the
got,
Nepo
here
babies.
come
Yeah.
the, just inheriting it. We want to earn it with the hard work ethic. But that being said, if they called us up and asked us, yeah,
Oh, we do it for
we'd
sure.
be
Yeah.
there for sure.
Well, that's cool, and he could teach you some life lessons too about having two camps because Udo and Peter are in one, let's say one camp, and then you have the Wolf Hoffman, Mark Tornillo, and Mark Tornillo is a Jersey guy. Both are good, but they've learned to coexist in different worlds.
Right.
But that's pretty cool. So, hey, about your sound, I want to make sure we get into the sound, and it's funny, and I think you guys can appreciate this. I always prep for my interviews. I listen to the bands, I read up on them, and I started writing down a list of adjectives that describe Howling Giant. I'm just going to read it off to you. So this is in no particular order:
Sick.
space rock, fuzzy, psychedelic, sludgy, doomy, proggy, trippy, uber melodic vocal harmonies. These guys have pop sense. I hear Sabbath. I hear Mastodon. I hear King's X. I hear Ghost. I hear Tool. So that's my summation of you guys.
Amazing.
That's legit. Yeah. It's
I
tough,
love when
man.
labels are a weird thing, right? Like in a lot of these, in a lot of the metal world or underground rock metal, people really want to classify the sub genre and everything else like that. Like people do ask us, like, what would you describe yourselves as? And at this point, we just kind of go, we're rock, like we're just kind of doing what we feel like.
Like one song might be a Doom song, and not to say it's like a traditional Doom sense, but I like to think like every song can kind of have a different identity and a different approach. And once you get enough of those kind of flavors, it is just easier to just say you're like rock.
Yeah.
Just a rock band, and you kind of do whatever you think is cool at the time.
A few years back we were working, like we love to hear what people have to say about it, but our buddy like came up to Tom and I and was like, I got it, I know what you are, power doom. And I was like,
Power Doom.
that sounds sick.
Doom. That's a metal genre I don't think anybody's created. That's
Right.
good. Power Doom.
Yeah, man. It's crazy, dude. It's like the amount of different bands that people have said we sound like. At first we had a few similar bands. They would say like maybe like Mastodon and the Sword. But as we go, it's like there's always another band added to that. And eventually it's like, just a rock band. That's it.
Yeah.
It is, but that's your human nature, right? You automatically say, "Oh, what do these guys look like, sound like?" I remember when I saw you guys, and when I heard the vocals, I was like, "Oh my god, I hear King's X in here." I don't know if that's one that anybody's ever told you sound like, but King's X is a trio. All three guys
Yeah.
singing drummer, And I
Dude,
like the
that's
line that
awesome.
you guys had on your bio. I think it was on the website. And I wrote it out here. It says Mastodon. It's like Mastodon and Rush supporting the Beach Boys in 1970, or Queens of the Stones Age and Torch having a songwriting clinic in the backyard of Pink Floyd. Those are
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, dude. That's a good one. I like that one a lot. I'd like to think it was accurate, but that sounds pretentious, but I dig it, man. That's a good
Yeah.
group of bands. So
Yeah. So before we get into like Glass Future, I mean, you guys put out an EP, and then there was the Black Hole Space Wizard parts 1 and 2, and the Space Between Worlds albums. I saw that you guys have done some covers through the years. Like, take us through some of that part of your career.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of this band from the beginning was kind of like anything that we did, we were just, adapting out of necessity, right? So like the first EP that we did, that was in Tom's bedroom. Like we just set up my drums and like my wife just had like the little recording interface and a computer like on Tom's bed, and we were just like getting everything
Wow.
done. And um we just wanted to get some EPs out there to start getting music out so we could start playing shows. um we did the Black Hole Space Wizard EPs as well. One of them was in Converse Studios in Boston. They just gave us a shout and they flew us up for like 3 days in the studio, and we were like, oh great, we have two songs, we need to write two more immediately, because we were flying up. We prepped, we did a local studio in town a little bit for Black Hole Part 2. And then we started working with Jad, from Magnetic Eye, with some of those covers. He called and they were doing a best of Pink Floyd redux, to go alongside of their full The Wall. compilation that they were doing, and we did Matilda Mother, and I think Jad was just like, why this song? But we just chose some weird stuff, and they kept on calling us for covers. Jad started to work with us and get us involved with his label Blues Funeral, and that's who put out the Space Between Worlds, because we were like, we have all these EPs, we need a full length record. Um, yeah, and then basically Jad wanted to keep working with us, and that's Jad also works with Magnetic Eye Records, so we ended up just getting Glass Future together, and here we are. There's a whole bunch of other covers and EPs in between all that, but
I think a lot of what we've done up to this point is like reacting to opportunities wherever they pop up.
yeah,
So it's not like there was a clear plan, but for example, the Converse thing Zach was talking about, Black Hole Space Wizard Part 1 really was only written because Converse reached out with their Rubber Tracks program and said, "Hey, we're looking to have bands come up and record in this new studio we built." So we reacted to that opportunity by creating, the first installment of Black Hole Space Wizard. Then we recorded that part 2 because we had the opportunity to work in town. All of the cover stuff was because, yeah, like you
because
said,
they
Zach,
asked. Yeah,
Dad reached out and he was like, "Hey, do you guys want to do a cover?" And we're like, "Yeah, we'll do basically anytime you ask us to do something, we'll probably say yes and figure it out." Um, so yeah, I mean, I don't think any of it was planned. It was just things popped up and we just keep
you
saying
just
yes.
yeah, that is the thing with the whole like kind of DIY band approach for the most part, is like you just keep saying yes, and like that has helped us quite a bit. Like just working with Jad on the covers and working towards getting a smaller indie label to help us with the first full length record, that led to more touring, and the guys at Psycho Las Vegas heard us and invited us to play, and then they kept asking year after year. We kept showing back up. Like they knew they could call us, and we're like, yeah, we'll go to Vegas from Nashville, no problem, and then we'll just route a tour around it. Like we'll just figure it out.
You kind of say
Yeah.
yes first and then
Yeah,
you
then
kind
you
of
figure it
Figure it
out.
out after.
panic
Yeah,
for a
yeah,
moment and then you figure it out and go.
yeah,
Yeah. That's good stuff. Yeah, because some of the other covers you've done that I picked up on, you did Alice in Chains, The Rooster, Black
yeah,
Sabbath, Lord of this World, Ace of Spades, which you guys played with Phil Anselmo, Nick Oliveri, and Gary Holt. There's a
yeah.
video out there for that one. So maybe before we get to the new album, talk about that song. I mean,
Dude,
wow.
it was
That was
crazy.
wild.
So we actually I think it was going to be run by our friend Chuck Garrick, who
Oh, Chuck,
plays,
yeah, sure, from Alice Cooper.
Chuck.
Yeah,
Yeah, man. So we kind of got to know him. He came out and saw a show of ours at some dive bar in Nashville, and we just kind of
Okay.
became friends with him. And it was really through him that the opportunity popped up, and he unfortunately couldn't make it out to Psycho, and it was kind of a
and he was
last
supposed
minute
to kind of
thing.
run the session. Yeah, he was the
It was
guy. Like,
supposed to be
yeah,
him. So because he couldn't make it, it was like, okay, well, I had kind of come up with like the guitar and a lot of the music kind of arrangement, and Zach was able to say, okay, let's like adjust some of the like flow and feel of this, create some breakdowns that weren't there before. So basically, me and Zach, these two like kind of, you know, young bucks that nobody knew, stepped into this room and said, "Here's the plan." You know what I mean? And all of a sudden, you have guys like Gary Holt and Phil Anselmo, Nick Oliveri, and it was surreal to be kind of thrown into that situation, but man, it was like awesome, and they were so good. Phil just stepped in and just like one take
insane.
just
It was
shredded it.
crazy. Yeah,
Like the video, I think he's holding the lyrics.
yeah.
Um, dude, I don't know, man. He's just like he could just step in, made a couple jokes, walked up to the mic, tracked it, and it was like, dude, that's it, ship it.
Oh, great experience. What was Phil like as a person? Because I came close to meeting him. Oh God, 10 years ago, I was at a festival in London and
Hmm.
Down was playing. And I remember I was backstage and I was trying to get through the area and they wouldn't let anybody in his corridor in his area. I don't know what was going on at that time, but was he cool, Phil?
So like I feel like I don't have the perspective of how he was back in the day, but my understanding is that like man, he was just like a professional and class act when we worked with him. Like
Yeah, he was super nice. Like came in very, it was all business, he was in, he was taking care of his voice. He went in, and
so
just
like
knocked it out.
I feel like he had that reputation in the past of maybe being kind of a wild card in some ways, but like
Yeah.
this experience he was just so personable and took time to kind of like say hey to every one of us.
Yeah. like all the assistants, like all the engineering assistants, everything else. He was just, checking in with
Dude.
everybody. And yeah.
And like some of the other artists that were working on that project, not just Ace of Spades, but the Motorhead collection in its entirety, everyone did a great job, but there were varying levels of professionalism. And I would say that Phil Anselmo was like the top of the like, I'm here to work,
Yeah.
and it was, man, it was great. It was really, really cool. So,
And speaking of Nick, I'm sure you guys saw him, but he was floating around the crowd in that Brooklyn show.
Yeah.
dude, so
That was
I,
wild.
I, I didn't get a chance to meet him during the recording of Ace of Spades. We just laid down our tracks and he had to come in a separate day. So we hadn't actually had a chance to meet. So I tried to just meet him very briefly at the show. And I think he was like, man, I don't know who you are. And I was like,
Yeah.
all right, cool. See you, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, I went up and I just did a quick selfie. Hey, Nick, click,
Yeah.
but
Man,
hey,
super cool
he's a
though.
legend too.
Hmm.
Yeah. So your new album, or let's say your latest album, Glass Future. I mean, it did come out October of 2023. So I mean, we'll call it your latest release, but it is still new.
Yeah.
Um, it's great album end to end. It's just got so much going on. I really, really love it. I've been playing it more and more as we were getting ready to have this conversation. But again, it's just more that the big vocals, the big harmonies, and it's got everything. Like you guys said, we describe your sound, the adjectives, the bands you might sound like, but there's even stuff like maybe subtle things like the use of the organ, the Hammond organ, or whatever you guys were putting in there. Like the stuff is placed perfectly. But maybe before we talk about some of the tracks and videos, like, is there a storyline behind this whole album? Is it a theme album, a concept, or is it just a piece of work, randomly stuff put together?
So it wasn't really intended to be a concept record, but I feel like it kind of ended up being like a concept record because there were so many kind of like overarching themes that we leaned into lyrically on this. So I mean, Zach can tell you as well, but I think the goal was just to like first let's write some riffs and some good songs and just overwrite, and then let's take a look at what we have and see what feels like the best flow for the record.
Yeah.
After that, it was just like, kind of writing the material lyrically, kept kind of coming back to these themes of like world ending events and, some apocalypse, some like post apocalypse stuff. As we piece it together, it does feel like a story from start to finish, even though it really wasn't intended to be.
Yeah.
Um,
I guess it's like the difference between like a rock opera and a concept record, right? Where like if you look at our other stuff like Black Hole Space Wizard 1 and 2 and The Space Between Worlds, those were kind of more in the rock opera thing where like you're telling the story, like the character goes here, here's what happens next, and so on. Where like this one just had each song thematically felt like it worked together, like
yeah.
just
Each
lyrically.
each song was kind of its own isolated story.
Yeah, rather than like, chapter one, chapter two, chapter three, and so on. Yeah.
So I remember, I think it was the last song in the album. I was just playing it before. There's time now. It's kind of a slow, swampy, bluesy track, but there's a reference to the Siren song in the lyric there, so it ties it back to the beginning, I suppose.
Yeah, that was like probably the last song we wrote lyrically. So it was really easy to kind of like sneak that in. I'm glad you caught that because
Yeah.
no one's brought that up yet, but it was like, okay, in this song, we want it to really feel like a lone survivor after like a world-ending event. And the idea that like these sirens, are still going off, like the remains of a human society are still here. But to be able to say the siren's still singing and have that be the callback to the beginning was like it just felt really cool to kind of
Yeah,
tie that
so
in right at the end. So
sure. Yeah. And and
awesome,
and
dude.
going back, I'm glad I caught that. But you talk about that song, the Siren song, because I describe it as it's bright, it's colorful, it's upbeat, and it's catchy. That's four words for it. And then you move into, let's say, Aluminum Crown, which is your video. Now that one's, it's slow, it's trippy, it's psychedelic. It kind of has a tribal beat and feel to it. I love it. And then you watch the video, got this serpent flying around. Like, I don't even know what it is. It's a mushroom cloud or something, but yet it has that big uber melodic, harmonies, but very, very contrasting type songs.
Hmm.
Yeah, I think this record, and we try to do this with really any record, but like while every song is its own piece, we want the record to feel like one complete kind of piece of art, you know? I want there to be like ups and downs, and I want the songs to flow into each other. And maybe that's the reason a lot of people have different like descriptors for what we sound like is, you know, in a way I almost want it to be cinematic, and you just don't want you don't want it to be like this even every song sounds the same. You want some build, you want some like kind of, you know, downfall and a climax kind of in the middle, high energy, slow. You need a nice mix, you need a nice flow, you know.
We're not focused as much on creating like a single for the record. We want the entire thing to be, you know, if you sit down, you are listening to the full record.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, look at like okay, you got Hawk and a Hurricane. To me, that one's like all about the guitar riffs. It's got great drumming. It's proggy, but yet it's like the vocal is very, very rich. And then First Blood of Melkor, it's an instrumental. It's heavy and fast. And maybe comment on like what are those spoken word passages in there? Does that come from an old film or something?
Dude, I think we just found some like sci-fi YouTube video thing, but it was like we started looking around for just flavorful kind of clips, and
Radio shows and
we
yeah.
All
found these
right.
free use radio shows talking like just some old sci-fi story, and I'm like,
Yeah.
dude, what is happening in this story? This is like perfect for the vibe, man.
Yeah.
But I feel like we just got kind of lucky being like, dude, that's it, man.
And you even hear like in the beginning clip, I think it is, or whatever, it's almost like you hear like a little clicking in the background, the age of whatever it was. It just doesn't sound all shiny. It's like kind of crusty and clunky, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think something we learned is like in some of our other records, we would do some of the spoken word parts, and like every time we're like, yeah, this'll do. But anytime we hear somebody else delivering like a radio speech, it's like, no, this is so much better than our voices.
And there is something to finding like old recordings that, you know, maybe it feels like it would have been on the radio and you don't have the cleanest signal, you know, and that's like perfect, man. That's the
Yeah.
vibe, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I love that one. It's good. So maybe talk about some of the other ones. I mean, let's say one of my favorite tracks that I love was Tempest and the Liar's Gateway. It's kind of moody, it's atmospheric, it's trippy, yet it's like beautifully melodic. It's like an epic type track. And then there's Sunken City, which Tom, you mentioned it early on. You kind of when you were studying music, you studied rock and roll, but to me, like that main riff that's like an arena rock riff. Like it's just arena rock,
Yeah,
like
dude.
something you'd hear in Boston or I don't know, REO Speedwagon or whatever, right? But just the steady rhythm to it and the drum beat. And then that's a song where, like, to me, the storyline shines, you know? And that's one of those ones where when I hear that one, I go back to the band Ghost, but the early version of Ghost, not current Ghost, the 10 years ago Ghost.
Totally, man. And that's when we got on board with Ghost too. So I'm
Okay.
glad that is the Ghost we're you know associated with. But
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Sunken City, man. I mean that was an
That was
earlier
one of
one
the
that we
first.
wrote for this record, and I think what did we say? We were trying to like write almost
Tom
like
and
a
I, yeah,
6/8 thing. We
right.
had
We were
like
looking for like a gal, almost like the like there's a band ASG that does these like triplet bass like gallop type things all the time, and we were like, we want something like that, and we were just I kind of made I like we were in the room a bit, just Tom and I, and then I like got onto GarageBand and just like made a loop of like the type of drum groove that we wanted, and Tom was just kind of trying different stuff over top until we finally found that one. And that song has been through a bunch of different versions until we finally settled on what's on the record.
mm-hmm.
Yeah. Cool. Now, a song like let's say Juggernaut, right? It is one of your videos, but you know, I mean, I actually watched the video before I listened to the song, and then of course, when you see the video, I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? So,
Yeah,
like,
that was just like a weird, silly thing, but it was fun. We were like,
Yeah,
hey,
well,
yeah.
fuck it, let's just get some
well,
weird video with our buds in Pittsburgh, you know.
well, I want you guys to describe the video for our listeners because I don't want to tell the story, but tell the story. What's going on in this video?
So like we've been making hot sauce and selling it on the road at the merch table. And so I think the first thing we were like, dude, let's make a music video that's like an infomercial for the hot sauce that you can find at our table. So we kind of started there, but the story I guess just kept devolving in the moment to like, but we should be like satanic in some way. Like this should
Right.
be an evil hot sauce. Well, we should probably sacrifice Sebastian, who is the cook of the hot sauce. We
Yeah.
should probably have to sacrifice him in a pentagram of salt. Yeah, that's good. And me
Yeah.
and Zach are the salesmen. Okay, we're probably agents of Lucifer. Yeah, that checks out. That checks out. And
Yeah.
it's just
The
like
guy.
one layer after another where it's like, all right, this is weird as hell. Just do it, man.
Yeah, we kind of just we needed to pick up a bunch of hot sauce from the guy that makes it, Chad, Riff Zealot, who lives in Pittsburgh. He puts on shows. So he's like, listen, drive up with the van, book some shows around it. We'll do a music video. You'll pick up all your hot sauce and so on. So then we just had all these bottles too. We were there for 3 days and like Tom said, like loose plan, but we were figuring it out with the film crew and we kind of just turned to each other and we are like, Satan?
Satan,
Yeah,
sure.
Satan. Sure, sure. Go
Be
with the
awesome, man.
tropes. Dunk on the bass player, satanic stuff. You're there.
Yeah, man.
Well, Seabass seems like a pretty funny guy. I mean, when you look at your
Yeah.
Facebook, he's doing all these jumping off walls challenges in wherever gas stations, and
I think
I,
it's
I don't, I
important.
don't even know if it's funny. It's not really funny, but I guess it is.
Yeah, I think it's like, man, so many bands can kind of like take themselves too seriously. And I think we were like, man, Seabass, we're gonna get you doing stunts. But Seabass is incapable of doing stunts. Okay, great. That's a good concept. Just do it. Seabass, jump off this table. We're gonna make it look badass.
Just make sure he doesn't like break a leg or an arm while you guys are on the road, kicking some McDonald's sign in Wichita or something.
Yeah, man. Those are the risks of the stuntman life.
That's right.
It was like one of the other older videos I was checking out too. Was it Cybermancer and Doomsday Express? Like that's like a mini movie. Like,
Yeah.
like it'll take us through that one because that one's a great story too.
So that was just kind of a
Our
yeah,
buddy
we're
Marshall was selling merch for us and he rollerblades and we were like, we just got to make a video around Marshall rollerblading. And Marshall was in the
yeah.
band for just a little bit as well. But yeah, that was
So I think earlier when I was saying like everything we do is a reaction to like the opportunity. Well, the opportunity for that song was that Marshall was a great skater with rollerblades. We're like, dude, you should be a pizza delivery rollerblader. And we'll just get some live shots of us jamming because we have the practice space. And you just gotta like, shred a little bit, try to get this pizza on time, and then at the very end,
Yeah,
pizza
look what
flies. That's
happens.
it. You know?
yeah.
It's like the train crosses, that doesn't derail him. He's in through a brewery,
Mhm.
whatever else, like guys coming at him in scooters, and then he drops the pizzas at your door. But like you could have clicked off on the video, but like I was ready to click off, and I'm like, wait, it's almost ending, and then now this bossa nova music is coming in, and you
Oh
guys are
yeah.
picking up the pizza off the floor, the dog's there. I'm like,
Yeah, man. Yeah, dude, that's
tells it
it. I don't know, man. It's just
Mike.
like weird. Half the time, it's just kind of fun, and we're like, dude, we think it's funny, or we just enjoy
Yeah.
it, so just do it.
Well, it sounds like you guys are a good sense of humor and you get along well, and you guys are just you don't take yourselves too seriously, which is cool. And the humor shows in the videos and stuff like that. So I appreciate it. It's cool.
Hell yeah.
So you guys just booked a tour, I saw. So talk about that one. That one's going to be circling around the States in September.
Yeah, we're going out with Mars Red Sky. They're from France. Cool, like psychedelic, kind of stoner band. And yeah, I think they've been over once, at least once before, a couple years back with our buddies in Greenbeard, but we are excited to be able to host them. I think starting first show is Brooklyn, and we're pretty
Right.
much circling, going down to San Diego all the way up to Seattle, swinging back through. So we're hitting just about everywhere in 3.5 or so weeks. Yeah, it's going to be a long one, but that's going to be awesome.
And are you guys will you still be cycling for this album, or like what's next? I thought I saw something on your social media that said you're going to be trying out new material.
We're kind of playing around with some new stuff right now. The way the album cycle goes, it's like, it's funny. The record just came out at the end of October, but we're already gathering ideas for the next record because by the time we track, mix, master, you know,
Yeah.
it'll, and by the time that comes out, because you turn it into a record pressing plant and they take 9 months to get it together. So we're already kind of working on some of that. if we have some songs ready, we might try them out on the road by then. We were just meeting up the other day to talk about some of the shows in June and July and like what we want to do for set list there. I don't think we'll do Glass Future front to back like we were, but a lot of the set's going to be Glass Future centric still because that's the new record, you know?
Yeah, of course it is. Of course it is. Now, what about the video game? I saw that as well. Comet Rider. And what's
Yeah.
cool about it is it's like very late 80s, early 90s graphics. Not too good, but kind of intentional to look that way, I suppose, right?
Right. Yeah. We did. Our buddy Jackson did the Comet Rider video, and it's all like kind of 8-bit, you know, vibe. And he was like, I actually have a friend that does little video games quick. I can pass him all of the assets and he can make you guys a game. So that was just, you know, pretty lucky that he knew somebody that could throw something together already. The guy working the music video.
Reaction to opportunity.
Right.
We had the guy who was into it and had that skill set, and it was like, yeah, that's perfect, man.
Of course we want a
video
game,
game.
dude. Yeah.
Let's do it. Let's do it.
I think you've just named the next album title, Reaction to Opportunity.
Yeah.
Dude, that's it. That's it.
Well, anything else you want to share? Anything else you want to plug, promote for your audience, your listeners?
Yeah. So, I mean, I think if you guys are interested in what we do and want to kind of like keep a closer eye on us, obviously Instagram and Facebook are good, but we also do some regular like Twitch streaming and have a Discord community. And that's a really good way to kind of get like really quick updates and kind of get the insider look at what we're doing. So if you like this stuff, check us out at Howling Giant Official on Twitch. Zach, what else you got?
Pretty much just anywhere, any of the social media, you can find us. If you just look up Howling Giant, we will be there in some way, shape, or form. Yeah, the Twitch streams, we're getting back to it here pretty much every Thursday around 6 p.m. Central Time. We will stream our practice sessions or rehearsals or whatever else we're doing. And we keep all that updated on all the social media. We've got some dates in June with our good friends in Horseburner who have a new record coming out. Those are all posted everywhere as well. And we've got some more dates coming up in July that we're about to start talking about as well.
Oh, that's great. And hopefully I'll be around that week. It's late August and I'll get over to the city and we'll have a beer in Brooklyn.
Sounds good.
Sounds like a plan, man. We'll be there.
All right. Sounds good. So just a reminder, get up to our website, metalmayhemroc.com, and join our community, as this is the best way for you guys to be informed about bands like Howling Giant and others, as well as all of our content that's contained on our YouTube channel. And don't forget to tune into MetalDevastationRadio.com for our Monday night metal radio show. And, of course, if you like what we're doing, you got to subscribe to us and leave us a review on Apple Podcasts. So for my guests, Tom and Zach of Howling Giant, I'm Metal Walt, and this is Metal Mayhem ROC. All right, cool, guys.
Metal for life.
Thank you for listening to Metal Mayhem ROC. Check out our website at metalmayhemroc.com for information on podcasts, archives, links to all our live radio shows, and all sorts of info. Please like, follow, and share with everyone, even your non-metal friends. And always remember to keep it heavy.